It is, for better or worse, the birthplace of grunge.
For parents about the so-called emo culture, read What is Emo?
Emo and grunge. What do both of them have in common? They were both popular genres in different decades. Grunge was popular in the 90s, while emo was popular in the 2000s. One was part of alternative rock genre that was influenced by punk rock and heavy metal. The other was a subgenre of punk that had a form with another subgenre of punk called post-hardcore. Sorry that the emo part confuses you guys. Other than that, I will give you a list how emo and grunge were similar. Before grunge became a popular rock genre, there was hair metal. Hair metal was a subgenre of metal that used pop influence on hooks and guitar riffs in their songs, and it has a ridiculous amount of fashion they wear. Although all of the hair metal bands were in the glam metal genre, since many people who couldn't stand the genre coined the term hair metal as an insult, hair metal rose to mainstream success in the 80s through numerous bands that were involved in, such as Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Twisted Sister, and Poison. So what's with all the hate of this genre? Well, many criticisms of hair metal were how they loved to shock audience for criminal charges they had and destroy stuff for no reason at all. Others criticized how sexual they are when it comes to girls and really couldn't stop getting horny all the time. And also, their fashion. Which, to be honest, they were ahead of the time for fashion since they wore makeup and tight clothing in the 80s. By 1991, Nirvana released their second album, Nevermind, and their most popular single, Smells Like Teen Spirit, became huge in the mainstream and ended the hair metal wave and started the grunge wave. The peak grunge era lasted from 1991 through 1994, when we saw many bands involved with the genre blowing up the same as Nirvana did, but the death of Kurt Cobain led to the downfall of grunge. So, what about emo? Well, before it was emo, there were nu metal, a subgenre of metal that mixed hip-hop, funk, industrial, and of course, metal. It started with Korn releasing their self-titled album in 1994 that became popular and led to many bands throughout the 90s and early 2000s, such as Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, Slipknot, and POD blowing up the same as Korn. At the same time, nu metal was hated by many critics and audiences for corny lyrics, edgy looks, and misogynistic lyrics that some of their songs did not age well. The genre started to lose relevancy in 2003 since many listeners and critics hated the two albums that were getting old, Results May Vary and Take a Look in the Mirror. In 2004, emo band My Chemical Romance released their second album called 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, and their two most popular singles, I'm Not Okay and Helena, which to me kind of destroyed nu metal as a genre, since a lot of bands who were labeled as nu metal switched to alternative metal or just heavy metal, except for Korn and Limp Bizkit. They kept their nu metal sound. The big four of grunge were Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and Nirvana. Meanwhile, the big four of emo were Fall Out Boy, Panic! At the Disco, Paramore, and My Chemical Romance. And I don't want to see many people complain about where's the real emo band, because this is more about the popularity of the emo band when emo was very popular.
Real emo only consists of the DC emotional hardcore scene and late 90s screamo scene. What is emo? Because emo is nothing but alternative rock with questionable emo. Influence when people try to argue that bands like My Chemical Romance are not real emo.
I always think My Chemical Romance and Nirvana share the same similarities, since both of the frontmen were very nice, geeked out to books, and hell, both of them even performed in dresses. Fall Out Boy kinda remind me of Soundgarden, since both started as a punk band but switched to another genre that they blew up. How is Paramore and Alice in Chains have in common? I guess both of them have excellent vocalists. What about Panic! At the Disco and Pearl Jam? Well, to me, they both debuted their album, then suddenly blew up after their first album was successful and came out later on when both of the genres started to get popular. Many grunge artists were involved in activism and serious issues that were going on during their heyday. Nirvana was very open about feminist views through their music and their interview, where Kurt spoke out against discrimination against women and stopped a man who was sexually assaulting a woman during the show. Kurt was also a supporter of gay rights. Pearl Jam was outspoken for pro-choice during MTV Unplugged performance and participated in abortion protests. Pearl Jam was also taking a lawsuit against Ticketmaster for seeking a $1 service fee for every ticket, but the band uses the tickets on their own for a lower price. They tried using it for the court, but sadly, Ticketmaster won the lawsuit. Emo has been involved with activism. The most thing that has become outspoken about is LGBT, since MCR has a lot of fans involved with the LGBT community, as they call the singer Gerard Way a queer icon. Emo is more open up on social issues like mental health and toxic relationships. Emo is mostly known for talking about depression, which also includes self-harm lyrics that many fans can relate to lyrics, but it became controversial since many fans died by taking their own lives and blamed the genre that influenced the fans. Many emo artists spoke out against suicide and being labeled as a cult. Emo has spoken out against domestic abuse. For example, the band Red Jumpsuit Apparatus wrote the song Face Down, which talks about a victim who should stay out of the abusive boyfriend that she is dating and reach out to the victim. It became the biggest hit of their career. Around the time when grunge was falling, guess what arrived after grunge ended? Post-grunge, which was a genre that was very different compared to how original grunge was at the time. Originally started after Kurt Cobain passed away. Bush released her debut album in '94 that rose to popularity with numerous bands related to the genre such as Nickelback and Puddle of Mudd. You'd think this is what people want grunge to come back, right? But it wasn't actual grunge, and post-grunge became the most hated genre, so hated that many people like to call these bands that I mentioned butt rock. And even worse, Nickelback became the most hated band of all time. Jesus! Nickelback weren't that bad, guys. Ah shit, I forgot to mention about emo. Well, since My Chemical Romance released the Dirt album The Black Parade, which became a huge success in the genre, a lot of those real emos realized how emo wasn't how it was in the 90s, and it suddenly became a separate genre because of bands that weren't associated with the emos getting called the emo, which many real emos hated how it seems more like a fashion rather than music, and many loved to call them mall emo. So in the late 2000s, they made emo revival, which was the underground emo scene that was taking influence by the 90s emo, which avoided the mainstream emo by the mid 2000s scenes. That name of the genre sounds very pretentious, but it has a very good band that I listen to this day, such as Citizen, Modern Baseball, Joyce Manor, Snowing, and my personal favorite, Title Fight. God, I wish they could come back again. It did have a lot of criticism for this genre since emo never died out and people should get over it on emo. Hell, they even have that annoying playlist that keeps on getting recommended to me called Midwest Emo, which they will never shut up about it. What are the key takeaways? Well, as I stated, before emo and grunge were popular, there were two subgenres of metal that were popular, hair metal and nu metal. Both of that subgenre of metal were destroyed by emo and grunge, which both of them had punk rock influence to them. Both were involved with activism that was going on at that time, and how other genres tried to revive the scene how it was but became a laughingstock to both genres. Thanks for watching my video. I love most of the genres that I mentioned and have a fun experience talking about what these genres have in common.